Tower is not a building, it is a presence. To the modern visitor, it is a collection of curiosities and ancient regalia, but to the ghosts of the past, it was an inevitable conclusion. We must understand that here, death was never a sudden event, but a slow psychological erosion that began long before the blade ever touched the neck. Through the precision of AI, we can now visualize how these stones absorbed the vibrations of terror, becoming a witness to the darkest impulses of the human heart. It is a place where brutality did not happen once, but was built into the very foundation, layer by agonizing layer, until the air itself became heavy with the weight of the forgotten. In the year 1078, the landscape of London was forever altered by the arrival of an alien force. William the Conqueror did not build the White Tower to protect the people of England, but to crush their spirit under the weight of Norman dominance. The construction site was a scene of suffocating industry, where the open riverside was replaced by rising walls of Caen stone imported from France. This was an economic statement as much as a military one, signaling that the wealth of a new empire was being poured into a vessel of occupation. The air was thick with choking lime dust and the sounds of forced labor, creating a monument to the fact that from its very first stones, fear was built into the ground. The transition from the year 1078 to the year 1100 marked the birth of a psychological fortress. As the White Tower rose to a height of 90 feet, it loomed over the wooden hovels of the old city like a giant from a nightmare. The sheer scale of the masonry was intended to make the individual feel small, insignificant, and entirely replaceable. This was the birth of a new era of governance, one where the crown did not negotiate, but dominated from an unassailable height. The foundations were not just made of rock, but of the broken pride of a conquered nation, establishing a legacy of submission that would endure for centuries. By the 12th and 13th centuries, the tower began to evolve into a self-contained stone organism. It was no longer just a single tower, but a sprawling complex of curtain walls, watchtowers, and moats that isolated it from humanity. This expansion reflected a growing paranoia within the monarchy, as the architecture itself became a form of psychological warfare. Narrow sightlines and hidden traps were integrated into the design, ensuring that every movement within the walls was monitored by unseen eyes. The tower revealed itself as a calculated system of control, designed to trap not only the intruders from without, but also those who ruled from within. During the reigns of King Richard I and King Henry III, the economy of the fortress shifted toward total isolation. The construction of the inner and outer wards created a series of concentric circles, each more difficult to penetrate than the last. This was the physical manifestation of a hierarchy of power, where the closer one got to the center, the more dangerous the air became. The massive expense of these fortifications drained the royal treasury, but the investment was considered necessary to maintain the illusion of invincibility. It was an era where the architecture of the state became its most effective weapon, turning the city of London into a mere spectator to the power of the stone. The 14th through the 16th centuries saw the Thames become a corridor of fate for those who dared to challenge the crown. Political prisoners would arrive by boat, often shrouded in the thick fog of the river and the oppressive silence of their own thoughts. They would pass beneath the low, dark arch of the Traitor's Gate, a name that became synonymous with the end of hope. This was not a place of dramatic execution, but something far more insidious, the torture of uncertainty. Once the gate closed behind them, the rhythmic splashing of the water was replaced by the silence of the cell, where time itself became the primary instrument of destruction.
Can't see a foot in front of us.
Entering the tower through the water was a symbolic death, a crossing of the Styx into a realm where the laws of the outside world no longer applied. The prisoners were often nobles, queens, and scholars who had once walked the halls of palaces, only to find themselves swallowed by the damp stone. The psychological toll of waiting for a trial that might never come, or a sentence that was already decided, was enough to break the strongest spirits. In this period, the tower shifted its function fully into a royal prison, proving that the most effective way to destroy a human being is to isolate them from the passage of time. Under the rule of the Tudor dynasty in the 16th century, the Tower of London was transformed into a laboratory of suffering. This was the era of the workshops of pain, where the machinery of confession was refined with chilling efficiency. Devices like the rack and the scavenger's daughter were not intended to serve the cause of justice, but to extract total obedience to the state. In these chambers, the concept of truth was irrelevant, replaced by the necessity of a confession that would validate the power of the throne. The stone walls were designed to swallow screams, ensuring that the agony of the individual remained a private transaction between the victim and the crown. The economic and social climate of the Tudor era demanded a high level of ideological conformity, and the tower was the primary tool for enforcing it. Torture was technically illegal under English common law, yet it was practiced here under royal warrant, creating a shadow legal system where the body was the only evidence. Those who managed to leave these chambers alive were permanently altered, their bodies broken and their minds haunted by the memory of the silence. It was a time when the tower became the ultimate symbol of the state's reach, a place where the boundaries of human endurance were tested to the point of collapse.
Look at the size of that diamond. Oh, it's incredible. Did you see the size?
As the 16th century transitioned into the 17th, the theater of power moved from the hidden chambers to the open air of Tower Hill. This was the site of public executions, a ritualized display of death that served as a warning to the masses. Here, the private agony of the prisoner was transformed into a public spectacle, where queens and nobles were forced to kneel before the axe. The crowds that gathered were torn between a morbid fascination and a paralyzing fear, witnessing the moment when the physical body of a leader was severed from the body of the state. These were not merely endings, but carefully choreographed performances designed to reinforce the permanence of the monarchy. The execution of a high-ranking individual on Tower Hill was an event that stopped the heart of the city. The flash of the blade in the sun was the final punctuation mark on a life of ambition, greed, or failed idealism. The names of those who fell here, from Anne Boleyn to Thomas Maury, became etched into the cultural identity of England, serving as reminders of the volatility of power. The economy of these spectacles was one of blood and influence, where the currency was the life of the condemned. History was changed in a single heartbeat, proving that the tower's influence extended far beyond its walls and into the very streets of London.
The documents themselves, particularly these seals, confirm the Crown's intent.
Today, the Tower of London stands as an eternal witness to a history that has never truly been resolved. The past overlays the present in a confusing tapestry of tourism and ancient ritual, where the yeoman warders still march and the ravens still watch from the battlements. Visitors from all over the world walk freely through the corridors where others once vanished, often unaware of the weight beneath their feet. The tower does not apologize for its history, nor does it celebrate it. It simply persists as a survivor of 1,000 years of human ambition. It raises an unsettling question for every person who enters. Has the nature of power truly changed, or has it merely found a more subtle disguise? The modern era has turned the tower into a site of education and heritage, yet the echoes of the prisoners still linger in the cold drafts of the Salt Tower and the Beauchamp Tower. The culture of the place is now one of preservation, but the architecture remains a reminder of the capacity for human cruelty. The economy of the tower is now driven by the millions of people who pay to see the crown jewels and the historical artifacts, yet the true value of the site lies in its memory. It is a monument to the fact that while dynasties may fall and laws may change, the physical reminders of our past will always stand to challenge our understanding of the present. As we reflect on the long shadows cast by the Tower of London, we must realize that it does not judge the actions of the past, but simply remembers them. Behind every accusation of treason and every sentence of death lay the fundamental human drivers of ambition, fear, and the desire for control. The story of this fortress is the story of our own struggle with the concepts of loyalty and survival. It forces us to look into the mirror of history and ask ourselves a difficult question. In another time, under the pressure of a different world, would you have been the one watching from the safety of the crowd, or would you have been the one called forward to the block?
The stars and brought us fire.
The tower remains because witnesses never rest, and its lesson is one of vigilance and self-awareness. It teaches us that power, when left unchecked, will always build walls to protect itself and dungeons to house its enemies. The history of this place is a reminder that we must always strive for a world where justice is not a product of fear, but of truth. As you go about your daily life, remember the silence of the tower and the strength of those who endured it. Let their stories inspire you to value your own freedom and to speak your truth, even when the walls seem too high to climb. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the cold corridors of time. We hope this exploration of the Tower of London has been thought-provoking and has provided a deeper understanding of the forces that have shaped our world. Please remember to subscribe to the channel to support our work and to stay informed about our future historical reconstructions.